Hey there, and welcome to Three Spoonies. We are your hosts, Claire, Jo, and Karen. This is episode 54.5, where we are talking community questions on dressing for when you're disabled. Let's get into some questions.
If you're a late-discovered neurodivergent adult, you may know the feeling. Always trying your best, yet still misunderstood at work or at home. It's not that you're asking for too much, you've simply never been given the language to explain what you need. At Outside the Box, Neurodiverse Coaching and Mentoring, we see a world in which neurodivergent people can truly thrive. Through education, coaching and mentoring, we help you uncover your strengths, understand your needs, and communicate them with confidence, so the people around you can finally support you in the right way. Book a free discovery call with Outside the Box founder AJ Mackay. Together, we'll uncover what you need to finally feel supported and understood.
I'm Claire from Black Vowel Stationery.
I'm Jo from Bright Cat Business Solutions.
Karen from Pony.
And together we are Three Spoonies, navigating our way through life and business with not enough spoons. I'm pretty sure we don't have one functioning spoon between the three of us. We have our fabulous guest, Hanan, back with us this week for community questions. So, Hanan, would you like to introduce yourself again and just tell us a little bit about what you do?
Hi, my name's Hanan. I'm the founder of In Totem. We're an adaptive clothing brand that makes comfortable, functional and fashionable clothing designed with and for the disabled community to make dressing easier and promote independence and individuality.
Fantastic. And if you missed last week's episode, go and have a look, because there's listen, depending on what your platform you're using. But yeah, lots of great stuff. So I'm going to pass it over to Karen for our community questions.
Yes, we have some questions here. The first one is from Camille. This might be a bit niche, but you may know. She says, I find catches on watches and jewellery are really fiddly. Are there any good alternatives?
Definitely, I would say there are some really amazing small makers out there. We actually worked with a jewellery maker and kind of, I think, self-taught silversmith called Carol, and she made jewelry. It was under the banner of Creations by Carol, I believe. All of her jewelry was actually inspired by herself and her struggles with putting jewelry on and how fiddly it can be with her disability. I would suggest, first of all, looking for people out there that are finding solutions and already making pieces that are a little bit easier. And then past that, I've seen some really cool ways people use specifically watches. And kind of, you can now find watch faces, you know, whether it's in your charity shop or one that you've got already. And they're kind of stitching them into all the things. So I've seen people kind of upcycling them and using watches and kind of sliding the watch face onto their like handbag bag strap and things like that, so that you can still be able to, you know, check the time and all of that without having to wear it necessarily as a watch.
Like a nurse's watch type thing.
Yeah. Exactly, like of clip-on.
Oh.
I've seen people clipping them onto handbags. I've seen all sorts of people are accessorizing with them now.
That sounds so cool.
Also, they're not super expensive for things like that either, so that could be.
No,
a really
I mean,
good
it's
option.
definitely one to look for in your local charity shops. I always see kind of watches in the jewelry cases in the charity shops.
See, I was thinking magnets, but then I'd be worried I'd be magnetizing to other things.
Yeah, I think you need the combination where it's a magnet and a twist, because I had a magnetic bracelet and it disappeared one day and it turned out it was attached to a radiator that I'd gone past. So that wasn't ideal, but there's some where they sort of, the magnets connect together and then you can kind of twist it to know it's secure, especially if it's sort of quite an expensive piece of jewellery. You don't want it sort of flapping about in the breeze, really.
I think there's also those kind of more like snap ones, like the snap bands you used to get in school where they'd like, you could snap them onto your wrist. I think they do watches like that still. Yeah.
Yeah, I
We know this-
investigated them. They're made of rulers.
Really?
Yeah, the inside is literally just a slice of ruler. It's not like the same sort of material. It's like actual rulers. Like tape measures.
Wow.
That's what I meant. Tape measure. I kind of understand where people are coming from with watches, because I recently upgraded my Visible to a Visible 2, and it came with a wrist strap like a watch, and it was comfortable enough. But now I've been back on the arm strap for a week. My wrist still hurts here where it's at because it's sat on a bone. It's like, that's why I don't wear watches and haven't done for many years. So yeah, I kind of get that.
Yeah, good alternatives. And also probably an environmentally friendly one as well. And often find your local sort of, the places that do cutting keys and things like that. They'll sort of replace the batteries for you, usually quite inexpensively if they do run out. But yeah, I'm all for stuff like that. I think it's such a good idea, especially if it's like a really fun design face.
Yeah, I saw somebody at Fashion Week that had a handbag where the entire bag strap was all different watch faces that they'd kind of like woven together to make a handle strap.
Wow. Well, if one of those was a minute out, that would drive me to distraction.
I love that. I mean, I love a good handbag. So something like that that's a bit different, and like Karen's got an amazing handbag that is just like a massive clock face built into a handbag. If she wasn't upstairs in her house, I'd probably like go run and get it, but that's never going to happen.
Yeah, no, if I go downstairs, I'll probably stay downstairs and you'll never see me again.
Don't want to do that. But every time when I see it, I'm just like, oh, I really love it and I really want one.
I think that's probably that one covered. The next one is from Mick. I know you'll definitely have an answer for this one. So Mick says, I find lots of accessible clothing is either aimed at kids or the elderly. Where can I find a good selection that isn't boring and doesn't look too much like shell suits?
Well, I would definitely say start with In Totem. And I would, I truly relate to what you're saying with that question, because when I started out in Totem, that was also what I was finding a lot of. And a lot of people really just kind of shoving a zip into things. And that is exactly the opposite of our ethos at In Totem. We start from the ground up with every piece. So we're not just taking something and trying to make it work. And we're also not making pieces that are boring. Or just for kids. So we do clothing for adults and children, but actually the majority of our customers are between the ages of 18 and 50. And that's because our pieces are a lot more trend focused, because we say we do adaptive fashion, not just adaptive clothing. And we make pieces that reflect what's on the high street as well. So whether that's one of our coats, or jeans, shackets, there's all sorts of pieces that you could find in anybody's wardrobe, and we've just made them adaptive and easier to wear.
Absolutely all for it. We don't all need to look like we're wearing things that are modified from blankets unless we want to, and that's the look we're going for, then fair enough. Yeah, very much a thing. Although I always think like a few years from now, when we're all in retirement homes, quite a few years from now, and you'll sort of see elderly people in their Adidas poppers and things, and times change, and maybe they should. Not necessarily with Adidas poppers, but again, if you want to, I won't stop you. Yeah, thank you. I thought you'd have a good answer for that one. The next one's from Anna. I can't stand sticking out labels. The ones in the back that rub against your neck. I usually go in with a seam ripper and take them out, but sometimes they're right on the hems. What's a good way to deal with them?
So definitely, first of all, would be trying to find brands that are more sensory friendly or label free. And that's something that we are as well at In Totem. That's something that I've really pushed for, is being fully label free, because I've experienced that so many times, of feeling that label on the back of your neck and just it rubbing. And honestly, it can ruin your entire day. And it's such a small little thing. But then, exactly as Anna said, when you cut it out, you can often still feel the edges of it. And so, yeah, if you can, use a seam ripper when you're taking those out, and being careful so you don't rip the clothing. But obviously, the other option is always trying to find more sensory friendly and adaptive clothing. And luckily there is a lot of places that are starting to recognize how irritating labels can be for people, and we go an extra step further to try and make sure that our materials are also sensory friendly and that our seams are flat, so that there's less irritation there as well. But we are from now 2025, we are fully label free as a brand.
Love that. Yeah, I think that's such a positive thing. Or just fabrics that just rub, or, cuffs that are just at the wrong place. So no, can't bear it. I'm all for not having all of that rubbish. Or they're the worst ones. Right, this is me here. This isn't Anna, to be clear. Is, sometimes you get a label when it folds up on itself. So you can't see what's on the label. So you can't see the washing instructions or anything, but it's still sticking there. Just this lump of spite and lack of information. They're the worst. They're the worst.
My husband's recently got a bunch of new clothing, and first thing he's now started doing is removing that label. Hates them so much. It might be autism.
And I think there are better sort of dyes and things now, so there are more options for maybe printing on the inside and still having it be visible after a few washes without it, being all sticky. But it always reminds me slightly of, those labels you got at the start of the school year with your name on that go in your PE kit and all of that. There's definitely that vibe for me whenever I see those. And it's such a shame sometimes when you see something that someone's gone to so much trouble to design and put together, and there's just this sticky out bit, and it's like, but why?
Yeah, and they can be really bulky as well. I bought a piece recently where honestly the care label felt like it was a small book inside my clothing.
For like 2-3 layers deep.
Cheers.
Why?
Like those baby books, like page after page after page.
Instructions, that's clothing.
Yeah, if it's that hard to wash, do you know what? I've been defeated already. It's never going to happen. So those are our questions. I don't know if there are any more that anyone has, or whether you covered it all last week and we're all good.
I'd just like to say I want the cape coat.
So I see you're on our website.
Right.
Nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I'm really excited for the shacket to come out, because I'm just
yes, that too.
once when you described it on the last episode, it made me think of a denim jacket I had when I was a teenager, and it was like an oversized one, had its pockets on the outside, but inside it had built-in big pockets, and I was instantly brought me back to that. I was devastated when I had to get rid of that, because I've never found anything like it since. So I'm really excited.
So I've been missing big pockets ever since I left high school. I miss my blazer. I honestly miss basically carrying my life with me inside these pockets.
Jeez.
And all of the things would fall through to the lining and you'd be kind of clanking through school. But I still loved those big internal pockets. And so I've been looking for a way to bring those back. And so now that we're doing our first kind of jacket style instead of just coats, I knew we had to have internal pockets and big ones, because, I want to be able to put everything I want in there, even if just so you can sneak your snacks into the cinema,
A bag.
I walk in fully just with my snacks. I'm just like, yeah.
Yeah, like a full...
I mean, we walk in, Dylan, they've got to know us quite well, and they're really, like, even before cinemas, when they were a bit funny, they know that he was so fussy about certain foods and stuff, so he could have his own stuff in there, and he'd take a rucksack in. I now take my snacks in, a bottle of wine, sorted. I'm like, yeah.
Nice. I think a bottle of wine pocket, though, that might be another upgrade. But I think the way you're talking about your jacket, that's how clothes should make you feel. It should be, I've picked this reflects me, this has features that I need. It's functional, but it's also fun. And sometimes you have to choose one or the other, and that's kind of sad.
And that's something that we really wanted to show, that we're not about, and elevate even further with our kind of second release. Because with our first collection, it was our first time doing this, it was our first ever pieces. And so despite obviously having lots of feedback to get to the stage of releasing them, they still hadn't been necessarily worn for 6 months by somebody all the time. We didn't have customers that have been wearing them all the time and can tell us, I love everything about them but this. And so, for us, that meant that people saying, I love my coat, I wear it every single day, I just wish it had a hood. And so I'm going, okay, well, let me add one in. And a big thing was also that because we've been able to, release a second collection and raise that money to be able to release a second collection, I knew that with the second collection, I also wanted to provide more choice for people, which meant extending our sizing, because that was something I wanted to do from the get-go. Was I wanted to be able to really release every single size ever. But, these things cost, and a lot of places actually A lot of factories, when we originally approached them, wouldn't even make sizes past, sometimes a 12 because they just don't do them, which is crazy. So, as I was saying in the last episode, we kind of worked really hard to find factories that align with us and that were going to make what we wanted to put out there. And so for this, all these new pieces that we've got coming out, and that hopefully should all be out by the time of this episode, we extended from what we did, which was an extra small, to an XL for our first launch. We've extended up to a 3XL now, because I really want to, with every single drop of clothing, try and extend our sizing and extend our options for everybody, so that it truly is a go-to brand for people, and they know they can come back to us and trust us for quality and for pieces that make them feel like themselves.
I love that. I think that's all questions answered. I don't think Jo's got any more that she can think of. I know I don't. So thank you for joining us, Three Spoonies, on episode 54.5. It's been really good talking with Hannah about dressing for when you're disabled. We would love to know your thoughts in the comments and any questions that you have. If you've enjoyed the episode, please subscribe for our weekly podcast and leave us a review. You can also buy us a coffee if you like what we do. All of the links will be in the show notes. We will see you next week for our topic. I've already forgotten what it is. Jo, can you remember?
Technology.
That was it. Intrusive and inclusive technology. So that should be quite interesting. So have a great day and keep track of your spoons.